Well, so the deal now on its last leg, but terrorism in India back home, that is also prominently on the Prime Minister's mind. The Indian government is studying just how America deals with terror. Sources have told NDTV the National Security Advisor spent the day with the US Homeland Security to study their model. This decision to observe Americans was taken perhaps because there have been no major terror strikes in the US since the 9/11 bombings. Well, NDTV's group editor Barkha Dutt is now with us. Hi Barkha, quite an unusual step to study the American model in dealing with terrorism, terror tutorials as it were. What's the motivation really behind this?
Well, after the spate of terror attacks in India, the most recent one, of course, being in Delhi, I think there is a growing realization within the government that it can no longer look at just conventional methods, that tried and tested methods to tackling terrorism. It has to reinvent its approach to terrorism. And perhaps that's why India looked at a country where, after that day, that unforgettable day in history, when all of us saw passenger planes dramatically storm into the Twin Towers in New York and bring them crashing down, well, after that day, there hasn't actually been a single major terror strike in the United States of America. India should ask the USA, how have they achieved this? Why can't we achieve it? And I think that's the reason that the NSA actually spent his last day in New York, spending 7.5 hours with Charles Allen. He's the Undersecretary in Homeland Security. Homeland Security is the group that looks after internal security in the United States of America. Now, we are told by sources that while the Indian government found some ideas quite interesting, there are also worries about whether the American model can be replicated in Indian society. Remember, we're a chaotic, open, democratic society. It's one of the great things about us, but it's also one of our weaknesses. And therefore, the sense is that many of the measures in America, perhaps maybe too draconian for a society like India. America is a society that's transformed deeply since 9/11, where perhaps now it's only an inevitability before all of us in India also have to realize that our lives may never be the same again now that terror is in our backyard.
Right, Barkha, you're now in France with the Prime Minister's delegation. The nuclear deal, of course, will come up here very prominently. Where do things stand currently?
Well, at this moment, I think the Indian side is reasonably upbeat about the nuclear deal with the United States of America. The Prime Minister, of course, was cautious. I asked him whether congratulations are in order. He said, no, not yet. Let's wait for the Senate approval to come through. Even at this point, there is an anonymous senator who could hold up proceedings in the Senate. There is also the question of the Indian side not being happy with the language in the Senate and the House bills. The bills are identical. Department of Atomic Energy Chairman Anil Kakotkar has now joined the delegation. That's perhaps a hint that even if the USA doesn't get its act together and sign on the dotted line, India here is ready to go ahead with other countries.